right, let's talk to Cameron Ramsdell. He's the COO over at Emerge. You know, this gentleman over here, I think he used to work right down the street a little bit.
Just on the other,
Spent, what, over a decade with Coyote?
The other side of the ridge.
He's done a few things.
And Coyote. He's been around.
He might know what he's talking about. All right, let's talk to him.
Maybe.
Cameron Ramsdell, COO at Emerge. Thanks for coming on the show, sir.
Morning, guys. Should I say, I guess, afternoon now with the time change?
So are you, well, where are you? Are you in Arizona? Are you in Chattanooga? Where's Cameron?
So I live in Atlanta. I've lived there for about 2.5 years, but I am currently in Arizona, and I'll spend, I'll really split my time between both Atlanta and Arizona. So I'll spend about 2 or 3 weeks here and then 2 or 3 weeks back in Atlanta.
Well, I already feel for you guys. Time change on a Monday for a West Coast time zoner. Not the easiest, so we'll be easy on you today. So we mentioned your previous roles. You've been with Emerge for a few months now. Tell us a little bit about how you ended up in the role and what you're doing in that seat.
Sure. So I've actually been here for all of 7 days now. So this is my second.
Wow,
my second week on the job, my second Monday. So I'm still drinking from the proverbial fire hose here. But how did I end up in the job? So I had I've had a relationship with our chairman for Jack Holmes for a number of years, back from my Coyote days. He was running the UPS freight business when UPS acquired Coyote. And so I spent a good amount of time in Richmond with him and his team and developed a good relationship with him. He's been on the board here for quite a while. He introduced me to Andrew Leto, our CEO and founder. And we really hit it off and started talking about what was possible given the platform that he's been building here now for a couple of years. And, you know, it was very clear to me once I saw the product and spoke to him about his vision that this is the first legitimate marketplace I've seen in this industry. This is, I think a lot of folks have kind of seen marketplaces as a potential opportunity. A few folks have tried to build one. But this, as far as from what I've seen in this industry, is really the first legitimate marketplace I've seen, and decided to come on board pretty quickly after a few conversations with them.
You know, I was reading a quote from you, and it was sort of asking about this new role, right? And one of the things that you said there is that it's about carrier experience. And I really like that because a lot of times you ask people what they're going to do in their role, and they give you a bunch of we're going to optimize this and do this and pull that lever and hit this switch and do that. And you're like, we're here to build carrier experience. So let's start there. What does carrier experience mean to you?
It's a great question. First and foremost, you have to meet the carriers wherever they want to meet. So I think, you know, this is a bit trite and overused, but, you know, having kind of an omni-channel kind of approach to building the marketplace. So first and foremost, Emerge is a platform, right? So this is a website that you can log into and you can shop from this marketplace of freight. I think today we have roughly $5 to $6 billion of freight flowing through it, with goals to triple that, maybe even more by the end of this year. And so, you know, there's a fundamental question of when carriers come to the marketplace, it has to have sufficient breadth and depth. You have to have a number of options for them to choose from. It has to be user-friendly, obviously. These are all things that are kind of table stakes now. But the real opportunity is leveraging our data, and we have, you know, kind of a tremendous amount of it, to really help them run a more efficient network and a more efficient business, right? There's been a ton of dialogue around the rising fuel costs, around inflation, and all of these things kind of happen to us. We don't have a whole lot of control over those things. So that when it comes to carrier experience, the question is, how do we give carriers information that they can use to take advantage of certain opportunities that they see and arm them with information they don't or wouldn't otherwise have to make better decisions over the things that they do have control over. So these are things like, from a really kind of tactical level, things like deadhead and dwell. These are the two biggest, you know, kind of silent killers of a carrier's P&L. How can we help carriers understand at the time that they're transacting, the time that they're either buying a spot load or buying a contract lane, what those operating metrics are? And so there's going to be a tremendous amount of focus on the platform and building in this level of intelligence that just equips carriers to make better decisions on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, one of those costs and dynamics that is difficult for carriers is rising fuel costs. So can you talk about some of the short and long-term impacts that we might expect from the rapidly rising fuel costs?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be seen here about how long, you know, what the duration of this is going to be. How long will we see these kind of elevated rates? And you know, it's a very nuanced problem depending on what type of carrier you are and how you buy fuel, right? There's not all fuel is priced the same in the carrier environment. So if you're a large national carrier and you run a pretty centralized network, you may have you're most likely buying wholesale, and you'll get impacted at times of volatility. But when it's relatively stable, it doesn't necessarily matter exactly what the price at the pump necessarily is. You don't love volatility, but in other operating environments, whether it's elevated or not, as long as it's not bouncing around, you're okay. For a smaller mid-sized carrier, and God forbid for an owner-operator, this can present a tremendous amount of challenges for them, right? This is traditionally when you start seeing this kind of a leading indicator of capacity exiting the market, or at least has been historically. So, I have no prediction on how long it will stay elevated. That is obviously somewhat geopolitical issue right now, but it creates an operating environment that is historically incredibly difficult to navigate for carriers.
Well, sure. And
part of what we want to do is go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and fuel's one of those things, too, that it's not just a direct impact of the fuel price. You mentioned there's rack buyers, there's retail buyers. There's all different types of buyers, depending on what kind of trucker you are, what kind of carrier you work for, et cetera. But the impacts of it impact us all, right? It increases inflation. I mean, I went away for a week, and fuel went up 22%. Retail fuel went up 22%. But even in freight volumes, we're seeing it. We're seeing it in Sonar that shippers are actually looking at the fuel market right now, and they're sitting on moving some freight. They're hoping that costs recede. So, right, we saw volumes dip over the past 2 weeks. So shippers are looking at this
absolutely.
too. So there's no way to really avoid getting hit by something like this.
No, there's not. And there's how well prepared were you for something like this? How are you buying fuel? Are you buying retail at the pump? Those are the folks that are going to feel this in the most pronounced way. So, hopefully we'll be on the other side of this sooner than later, and we can see those prices start to deflate again.
So efficiency is going to be critical then, right? Lane efficiency in an environment like this.
I was just going to mention that,
Well, go for it. Jump with what you were saying.
Well, I was the fuel impacts, and when you mentioned it, the larger guys, the ones that do have those rack and the wholesale contracts with their fuel surcharges, it's the volatility that hurts them. When it smooths out and what's not, it's not that big a deal. But for the smaller guys, it is. And so that efficiency, that's where that really comes in. How do you guys work on that? How do you help them with that?
A lot of it is helping just understanding how they run their network. What type of freight do they like to take? Do they run, a majority contracted operation with only a small handful of shippers? In that environment, we want our marketplace to help them fill those network gaps on a more contractual basis, right? There is plenty of drop freight in the marketplace today that carriers can come into and view and see, does this match really well to my network, and help me reduce those things like the deadhead and my dwell. So that's one. If carriers, we're coming off of probably one of the most frothy spot environments that I've seen in my time in the industry. We'll see if that environment is going to continue as it has for the last, it feels like probably 2+ years now. If in that environment, there's plenty of spot freight to shop from as well. And so one thing that we are very, very focused on right now is building out that platform and enabling carriers to help us, understand both verbally and through the platform what that network looks like, and give them some very, very targeted search criteria that help them find these efficiencies in their network.
Very cool, Cameron. Well, we appreciate your time today. That company is in good hands. Emerge is in good hands with you in that seat. Say hi to George for us if you pass by him in the hallways over there, and take it easy, my man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Thanks for coming on.